today we will be starting MDF object, that is Metadata Framework. Okay. So already when we started with Employee Center, uh, we have seen how the object MDF object is the record is created with the help of managed data and import and export data. Correct?
Yes.
Where we go and create the legal entity, business units, right? First of all, we have to create a record. But when you see, for creating a record, those fields which are there under each object, that also has to be defined somewhere. If that is not defined, how you will go and create a record from managed data? Correct. So
Yes.
before migration, these MDF objects were also a part of FO, that is foundation object. And their fields were also a part of foundation object. That was the reason it was earlier defined it in the XML. Okay, that is in the corporate data XML, corporate data model. Okay, in the XML. After the data migration, after the migration of the object from the FO to the MDF, what SAP has done, they created a new object that is known as a metadata framework, and this object, whatever the object which has been migrated in MDF, we can able to configure those objects and the field from the front end system, that is from the instance system, rather going from the XML. Okay, so there is no dependency now to go into the provisioning and define the object and the field from the provisioning side. It can be defined from the front end system, that is in the instance system. Up to here it is clear?
Yes.
Okay. So for defining the objects and the fields, these objects and the fields are defined in a configuration tool that is known as configure object definition. Okay, so configure object definition is a tool in the front end, that is in the instance, where we can able to define the any standard objects and the field in the front end system. Okay, so when we go into the instance system, we will have a more clarity. So I'm going into the instance, that is the front end system. And when I go into the instance, the configuration tool for going and seeing for any MDF object, either it is a standard MDF object or it is a custom MDF object, the configuration tool is configure. What is the name? Configure object definition. Okay, configure object definition. This is the tool which we are using for creating and maintaining all the MDF objects, both the standard as well as the custom one. Is it clear?
Yes.
So when I click on the configure object definition, it will take me to a page. And meanwhile, what I will do, I will also duplicate a screen and I will open manage data also, so that I can show you parallelly. First, we will go with an overview, then all the fields, all the tabs, we will try to elaborate in detail. Okay. So manage data is a tool, configuration tool, which we are using for creating the records. Correct? Okay. So here I can able to go and see for business unit, right? Where I can select any of the record for the business unit. When I will go and select a record, what all I can see? The start date, business area ID, area name, description, all these fields also I can see, right?
Yes.
Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. So from where it is coming from the place that is called as a configure object definition. Okay. So once you log in into configure object definition, select the object definition here. And what is the object? Business unit, right? When you go and see, all objects will be there here, including the standard as well as the custom one. Okay, so here I will just try to type business unit. Okay, so when I go into the business unit, the screen you can see divided into various sections. So we will discuss on these sections. First I am going into the overview, make correction. Okay, so upper part we will have a discussion right now. Before going here, you can see there is a field section here,
Yeah.
right? So under the field section, when you go here, you can see the external code, name, description, effective date, it starts coming, right? Name, description, everything, it is start coming. The same thing here also you can see, it will be
Yes.
showing, okay, where you can see the ID, the name, description and everything, okay. So when we were discussing the XML, if you remember, XML was having HRIS elements and the HRIS fields, right?
Yes.
HRIS element, and I told you that each HRIS element and each HRIS field is divided into two parts, that is ID and the label, right?
Yes.
And we should not do any changes in the ID because that is a standard one. We can make the changes in the label. Same thing applies here also. Okay, when you go here, whatever the in the UI, that is when you see the record here, whatever the fields which you are seeing here, this is the label which you are seeing. Okay, labels for that particular field. Okay, not the IDs. So from where these labels are coming, when you go here, you can see it will start with the external code, name, description. This is the standard one. Means these are the IDs. Okay, these are the IDs which is showing here. If you want to see the label in front of this external code, can you see the details here?
Yes.
Click on the detail here, and here when you scroll down, you can see the label here, business area ID. Okay, so here you can see business area ID. Okay, so whenever you go into configure object definition, select an object and go under the field section, you can see it will start with an external code. Okay, so external code which you are seeing here, this is the ID, this is the standard one. Okay, by default it will be coming in the system. We should not go and change it, but if you want to make any correction, we can do it the label part, because that is the same, that is the thing which will be reflecting in the managed data.
Okay.
Okay, now you can also see here it is a mandatory one, right? Business area ID. So when you go here, so I told you in HRIS element, under HRIS field there are certain attributes of each field, right? The fields are mandatory, not mandatory, visibility, all these things here, length of the field, it is the attributes in the XML, right? Here also in the detail, you can see if for this field, the required equal to yes, means this field is mandatory. Okay, visibility, you want to make it visible, not visible, or readable, that is also specified here in the drop down. Okay, and further when you go up, you can see length of the field. Can you see length of the field? Okay, and data type we will discuss either by today or in the next session, but we will try to discuss in the today session. Data type is nothing but it defines the behavior of that particular field. So I'm creating a field. What is the behavior of that field? Behavior is something where I am putting some value to that particular in that particular field, what is the value that particular field will take? It will take as a character, numeric character, special character, or it will only take as a numbers, decimals. Okay, it should only have a drop. It will have a behavior of having a drop down value. It should have a behavior of taking the date. Okay, so those controlling that particular behavior is done with the help of data type. Got it? So you are creating a custom field. You are specifying a name, but when you enter some value, what value you are expecting that field should save? It should save as a character, it should save as a date format, numeric format, or it should take as a decimal format. So that everything is being controlled with the help of a data type. Okay, we will go and see all the data types which are mentioned in the drop down list. Okay, so that is one thing which is also showing in the detail. So in the detail you can see the external code, that is the ID. We should not go and do any changes here. Then we can see the length of the field. Then we have seen the data type which specifies the behavior of that field. Okay, and you can see the field is mandatory or not. That also specifies required equal to yes or no. Visibility of the field, status of the field, label of the field. Everything can be done from the detail section. Okay, and this same designing will applies to all the fields. So now you go into the name, again you go into the details. So the name is the and so the name is the what you call standard one. Okay, name is the standard one, and when you go into the neighbor name, you can see the label, that is business area name. Okay, you can see the business area name. So this is the label which you are seeing. So you can see here the label, that is business area name. Can you see here? Okay, same, but the ID is the name, but the label here, what you are defining it there in the this one configure object definition in the details. So we have defined as a label business area name. Okay, got it? Okay,
Yes.
same thing applies to all the you can see here also the length of the field, then you have the required equal to mandatory or not, the visibility of the field. Okay, data type, again the data type will be there. Okay, all these things can be defined, maintained and controlled from the detail section of the particular field from the configure object definition. Okay, so external code, name, description, start date, all these things which is been showing here, this is the standard one, and the same thing which will be reflecting here. It is for which object? Business unit, right? And the business unit only we have opened here. You can see here business unit only we have opened here. Okay, so under the business unit, when you go to the field section, we can see all the details will be there. Okay, starting from the external code. Any questions here before going further ahead?
No, but one question. In managed data, we have the foundation objects also, right?
Managed data we don't have in the foundation object. Foundation objects only will be having in manage object pay structure.
Okay, manage object. Fine.
Manage object pay structure. These objects were there in manage object pay structure, but after that they migrated these objects from foundation objects to PF, that is to manage data.
Okay, so managed data is only the MDF objects.
Only MDF objects.
And manage org structures.
Manage object pay structure is only for the foundation FO.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Fine.
So now whatever the foundation object is left over, there in the manage object pay structure, there that is only defined it in the XML, in the corporate data model. Okay. Whatever objects which is been migrated, those objects we can create a record from managed data, and whatever object which is there in managed data, we can see those objects where it is defined it in the configure object definition. Okay. So I have taken an example for the business unit. Same thing you can check for legal entity also, department, division, all other MDF objects also. Okay. So in the coming session we will, because MDF is a very big topic, we will take couple of sessions. So we'll also go and see how we will be seeing right now with standard MDF objects, but custom MDF object also, how we can able to go and create it, that also I will show you. Okay. So this is about the basic overview, how you can see the fields here, that is external code, name, description, everything is defined under the field. The same thing will be showing under the managed data, under the business unit. You can see here. Okay. Got it? Any questions here? Now further going ahead. Okay. Further going ahead, whenever we open a what you call a object definition and open a object here, you can see certain fields are there, right? Code, effective dating, API visibility, everything will be there. Okay. So what is all about this? Let's go and discuss each and everything so that we will have a clarity on this also. Okay. So let's start with the code. Okay. So code is always a standard one, that is a unique one. Okay. So when a code is being created or defined, and if you are going and creating a new code, those code will not be should not be the same which is already created in the system. Otherwise, while saving, it will give a error that this code already exists. Okay. Name you can label you can give anything, but the code should be the unique one. It should not be the same which is already there in the system. Okay. So this is the standard one, which is by default it is coming from SAP. But when you are going and creating a custom one, now when we are discussing all these fields, it will help us to understand what all things we need to go and take it while creating a custom MDF object. Okay. So code is the unique one. Now coming into the effective dating. When you come into the effective dating is what? Effective dating is a feature which will help us to create multiple records. You can create multiple records for a given particular code. Okay, for a given particular date. Okay, that is the purpose of going and doing for effective dating. So effective dating help us to manage and something like a track the data for an effective date. It can be a past date, it can be a current date, it can be a future date. Okay. Effective dating is divided into these other areas: firm, parent, none, basic, and multiple changes per day. Okay. So when you go into effective dating as none, when I'm going effective dating as none, if I'm selecting, okay, we understood what is an effective dating. Effective dating is nothing which allow us to create multiple records for a given particular code for a given particular date. The date can be the future date, past date, or the current date. Okay. Now when you go and select a particular effective dating, suppose we are going and selecting none, how it is behave? So the object, so if you are selecting as none, it indicates that the object is a non-effective dated. Okay. So we have seen an effective dated and a non-effective dated, right? So non-effective dated is something where we cannot able to maintain the history. It will only give you the current date in the system. Okay, which is relevant. Okay. and it will not change time to time. Okay, something we can take an example of an object, something as an emergency contact number or a date of birth. Okay, where it will not change time to time. It will be something as a static one only. Okay, so in that case we will be going and selecting as none. Okay, is it clear? Understood the concept of none when we need to take?
Yes.
If we are going with basic, what is the behavior of basic if you are taking as a effective dating as a basic? So here if you select as a basic, it gives a opportunity to change the record only once per day. So choosing this option, when you choose this option, the record for the past date, current date or the future date, we can able to change once once at a time. Okay, something we can take if you are taking a object, something where salary information of an employee. If that is a scenario, then we will going and selecting as a basic. When you see all the standard objects, the effective rating always it will be kept as a basic only. Okay, either when you go with any of the objects in the system, that is the standard MDF objects. Okay, now going into firm parent. Firm parent is something where we can call that it is something like a composite association. I need to explain to you what is a composite association. Okay, so to understand firm parent, we need to see how I can able to explain to you. If you are selecting the effective dating as a firm parent, it indicates that when you will go and select a firm parent. For that, assuming that you have created two objects, okay, two MDF objects. One is a parent object, one is a child object. Okay, so always the child object will be connected to the parent object. When you are associating the child object to the parent object, so at the time you have to, in the child object, you have to select the effective dating as firm parent because you are linking that child object to the parent object. So suppose in case if business unit is an MDF object and we have another parent object, okay, so how this business unit object will be linked to that another object, considering that this business unit is a child object and you are linking it to the parent object, then in that case from this object as a effective dating we need to take as a from parent. Okay, what is the benefit of taking the from parent is that when I duplicate the screen, when I go to an employee profile, let me go to an employee profile and show you when we have two objects how these objects are connected to each other. So I'm going into an employee profile. And after going into an employee profile, when I go to the contact information, I can go to the contact information, or let me take, I can go to the address information. So when I go to the address information and when I click on the address here, let me take some date here. So when I am going and selecting a date, you can see some record is already created. Okay, these fields which you are seeing, this is the standard fields, and these fields are associated with which object? This is the object, right? Okay, this is the object. Okay, so we can see two objects are there. What is the another object? We can see add address is another object. So one object is address, another object is add address. So this address will act as a parent object and add address will act as a child object. So when the add address is being configured, then under the add address, effective dating will be chosen as from parent, because we want to link this object to this parent object. Okay, so when we are linking the child object to the parent object, the child object will be created as a button here. Okay, so when we click on this button, you can see another record option will be there, where we can able to go and create another record. So if we have a scenario where we can able to go and create multiple record, in that case we need to have two objects. One object will act as a child object, another object will act as a parent object. And in that case, we will select under the child object as effective dating as from parent. Understood the concept here? When we need to go and take the parent object.
Okay. But in address example you gave, all of them are like they would have different dates.
Fields.
Right? I mean, dates or
Sorry?
different. All of them we're creating like different types, right? They're necessarily not related to other.
Sorry, I'm not getting your point.
So in address, this address, so you have home address. Again, you can create office address and some 3 types of addresses you can create, but none would be related to anything, right? I mean, we no need to relate them.
None will be related to?
And any of them will not be related to anything, right? I mean, like not necessarily they need to be related. Like home address not need to be related to office address. So then
it is not necessary that it should be related to each other. The fields will be the same, na? So whenever you want to go and create, suppose you have an address here where this address was the old address, and now you've been shifted to the new address. Okay, so for a legal purpose also in the system, you will always have a historical record, right? If any issue happens with the employee and employee is unable to reach on the current address, the employer should have the old address also in place.
Yes.
I'm giving an example, but don't try to replicate on a practical way. If you want to replicate on a practical way, I can also give another example, but here the field it is not showing. We were also having one more option that is called as a work permit. Okay, or the work eligibility. So work permit also we will be having two objects. One is work permit, and maybe another you can have an add option of button where you have a. So if I want to give an example, work permit you have in the work permit you have an option that is document ID, where you are having a tenure time for the 1 year. Your 1 year has been completed. Now you have been moving into another on-site assignment. So when you are going into another on-site assignment, again in the work permit, you will be going and creating with a new effective date, new country, new document ID, everything will be there. So when somebody will go and see the history, they can able to see all the work permit details from the last couple of years where you have been worked with all document ID, document name, country, location, every details will be there. So that is another example where you can see two objects, how it is connected to each other. Okay. So what you are doing, you are pulling you are trying to create a copy of the record in that particular object. So when you want to create a copy of the record, then you should have to link one object to the another object. Then only you can able to go and create a new record. Okay. So in the address information also, when you went, you have a button here, right? So we came across last year also the same type of a scenario where they want to have a custom MDF object, and when they will go and create a record on the custom MDF object. Later on, if the manager want to create another record, you should have a button there, additional button. When you click on that button, what will happen? And another record form will open, and they can able to fill that form and save it. So you have multiple records under the same portlet.
Okay. It
Okay.
allows
So
creation
in
of
that,
multiple records.
sorry.
It allows, I mean, this type of effective dating will allow to have multiple records.
Yeah, multiple records under the single portlet.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So this is the portlet. This is the MDF portlet. Okay, standard MDF portlet. Okay. So same thing we can able to go and see in the managed data also, and how it is routing from the configure object definition. Okay. That is the reason when we are creating some custom MDF object, when we need to choose from parent, that we should have a clarity. Okay. If you are only going with a single object with no linking to the another object, we will be always going and taking with the basic. Okay. The parent object, when we are defining that parent object, effective dating will be taken as a basic only.
Okay.
Okay. Got it?
Yes.
So we have seen from parent, none, basic, and multiple changes per day. Multiple changes per day, MCPD, that is a record. It is something like a record can be changes multiple times per day. If you want to change it, then you will go with multiple changes. So we should, if you are selecting this, we should have a valid reason from the business, from the customer, why we need to go and choose it. Okay. So we need to go, otherwise we will be going always with the basic only. Okay, understood? And in the real time, mostly you can see basic and from parent will be active. You can see in the effective dating. Okay.
Okay.
Now coming into API visibility. So when you discuss about API visibility, API is something like it is connecting with the integration, right? So whatever the fields which we are defining under a object, that field, how it will look in the API, okay, in the integration, it should be editable, it should be readable, or it should be not visible. That will be controlled from this particular field, that is API visibility. Okay, and it is only applicable with API visibility. Generally, it is only applicable when you are creating a custom object. Okay, in the standard objects, by default, it will be specified as editable. Okay, got it? So in the custom object, we have an option, you want to make it further into readable, or it should be not visible. The same thing will be reflecting in the integration tool. API is connected with the integration. Okay, so that we can see in the API visibility. Okay, and coming into the standard objects, by default for the API visibility, it will be always showing as editable. Okay, then we have the status. We know that is active and inactive. MDF version history. So when you go into the MDF version history, what is an MDF version history? It, first of all, this feature is used to capture the audit information that can be pulled into a change audit report. So it will act as an audit information. So you do some changes, do some modification, do some creation, or do some delete activity. Okay, all these things will be captured under the audit information with the help of a MDF version history. Okay, so by default you can see MDF version history, it will be always as a delete history. So here also you can see no selection, no will act as the same, delete history and a complete history. So what is all about this drop down? So if you are selecting something as a no or no selection, it indicate no or no selection. It indicates that no history will be, no selection will be, no selection if you are selecting, then it indicates that history record, no history record aren't been stored for any of the operation. Okay, you maybe perform some operation, change operation, delete operation. So in that case, no audit information will be stored if you are selecting here as a no selection or a no. Okay, so in that case, no history will be there and no audit record will be generated. Okay, delete history is something, if you are selecting, if it is selected as a delete history, then if this option is selected, then only the audit record which is done with the, which is done by the operation, that is the delete operation of that particular object, are generated. So delete data deleted, something, the data which is being deleted with the help of a full purge. Okay, all these things will be captured under the audit information if we are selecting as a delete history. Okay, only those operations will be captured when you're selecting as a delete history. Complete history means what? When you're selecting complete history, complete history specifies that if this option is selected, then if you are making some changes, any updation other than the delete operation also, whatever the changes which we are making, that every changes will be captured in the history, in the audit information, and that will help us to take the audit report. Okay, if you are selecting the complete history. So in a real time, when you see MDF version history, by default it will be selected as a delete history. So what is the other options if the customer asks, we can able to explain to them. Okay, that is the meaning of MDF version history. Then default screen, there is nothing major into it. Label we know, whatever. Yeah, anything.
Yeah, this MDF version is like a log for this business unit, for example.
Exactly,
So, okay, where can we
exactly.
see?
Whatever the, in the report center. From the
Okay,
report center, we need to go and create a report.
okay,
Okay. So from the report center, when we complete the training, we will also have a 2 session for the reporting tool. So in that reporting tool, I will also tell you how to create a report. So when you want to go and create a report for the audit also, we have an option for creating the report for the audits. So there we can able to go and create the reports. So whatever the changes has done time to time, who has made the changes, when they have made the changes, everything will be extracted. The data will be extracted with the help of the report.
okay.
Okay. So that is about the MDF version history. Then default screen, we don't have any major importance. Label we can see, whatever label we are specifying. Description also we can ignore it. API subversion also we can ignore it. We are only focusing on some important tabs here. Subject user field also we can able to ignore it. Although these are not mandatory fields, but some fields we can ignore, some fields we can see. The usage of the field will be there. So we are, another field is workflow routing. Okay. So when you go into the workflow routing, what is the purpose of workflow routing? So whenever a end user is making some changes in the MDF object, those changes, so now when I'm going here into the manage data and I'm going and making some changes, click on the save option. Okay, so it will get saved, but the customer don't want it should be saved automatically. Whenever you are making some correction, it should route to a approval process, and from there the approval has to approve it. Once the approval has to be approved, once the approver approve it, then the changes has to be saved automatically. If that is the scenario, then there should be a workflow which has to be created. In that workflow, we should have an approver. But when we will create a workflow, to trigger a workflow when the changes has to be done, the workflow has to be assigned somewhere. Okay, for the MDF object. So where the workflow will be assigned? In the configure object definition. In the configure object definition. When we go and see in the workflow routing, whatever the workflow which is being created, those workflow will be assigned here in the workflow routing. Okay, so workflow is also a foundation object. So when we start with the discussion of the workflow, we will see how the workflow is being created. So workflow is a process where we can able to go and create multiple layer of approvers. Okay, when this action is happening and when the workflow is getting triggering, the request will be sent to the first level of approver. He has to approve it, then it will go to the second level, it will go to the third level. If that is the scenario, we will go and create a workflow. But triggering of the workflow and sending a notification will only happen when you assign that workflow. So in the case of any MDF object change or creation, if the user is making, then if the workflow is connected, the workflow has to be assigned to the workflow routine. Is it clear?
Yes.
Now when the workflow is being assigned here, so every workflow will be having an approver. So when the notification will be sent to when the change request will be sent to the approver, so then the approver has to approve it, then only the changes will be updated in the managed data. Okay, if that is the scenario, then we also need to keep the pending data as yes, the option as yes. It indicates that pending data is connected with the workflow routing. So if you have a workflow routing and if you have kept the pending data as yes, then mandatorily that change has to be approved from the approver. Then only that will be updated in the system. But if you are selecting as no, means what? Irrespective of the approval, if the approver is decline those changes also, still it has to be updated in the system. Then we will keep this. If that is the scenario, then we will keep this as no. Okay, so something, if the data updates can be made, okay, mean to say that the updates can be made without any approval. So if the approval is, if there is no approval with the help of the workflow, then in that case we will be setting the field as no. Okay, so that is the reason pending data is connected with the workflow. Okay, although it is not a mandatory field, but when you go here, by default it will be kept as yes. And if there is some workflow, we can assign the workflow in the workflow routine. Okay, is it clear?
Yes.
Then when the workflow is being when the workflow notification will be sent, it can be sent with the help of an email also, and it will be sent to the home page. So in the home page, it will be displaying in the to do category, that is showing as a by default. Okay, so nothing we have to do it here. So this is all about all the fields here which we have discussed. So coming into the another section, that is the field section. So when you come into the field section, we have certain columns, that is name, database field name. That is nothing but the standard name which is being created by the what you call SAP, that will be showing in the name and database field name. Then you have a length here. So maximum length is 255. So under maximum 255 or below 255, whatever number you want to take for creating the field, you can able to take that length. Okay, so that is been prescribed by SAP. Okay, but beyond 255 as of now. It is not been prescribed by SAP. Maybe in the future releases it can come. Okay, so that is about the maximum length. Coming into the data type, when you come into the data type, as I told you, the purpose of data type is to give the behavior of that particular field. Okay, so what is the purpose of that particular field? That defines the data type. Okay, so you can see here, for every field there will be some data types. Okay, and these data types are the standard one. This is not the custom one. This is by default, it is coming here from SAP side. In the future also, if they are deprecating some data type, or if they are adding some new, that is also coming in the new releases. Okay, so let's go and discuss each data type in detail. Okay, so you will also have a clarity when we are going and creating some MDF objects and the MDF fields, what data type we need to take for that particular field. Okay, so when you go into the data type, these all other data types. So most commonly used data types is something like a string. Okay, what is a string in the data type? It is used generally to give to it is generally for the used for text inputs. Okay, if you want to have some text input in that particular field, then you go with the string, and it will only take maximum 4000 characters, not more than that, if you are going with string as a data type. Okay, that is about the string. Okay, but if you want to go more than 4000 character, then we have a same string like another data type that is called as CLOV. So CLOV we also use as a text input field, but if in this case it will take more than 4000 characters. Okay, is it clear? The difference between the string and the CLOV. Any questions here?
Yeah, it's clear.
Okay. Okay. Still any query in your mind?
No. I mean, these are the same data types we usually use in SAP. So,
Okay, fine. So same thing, we can go with another one is the numbers. So when you go with the number also, so number also it stores the integers. This starts with the allows for the 0 to 9. So if that is the thing, we can go with the data type as a number. And we also connecting to the number, we also have auto number. Auto number is something which already is a number list will be stored in the system, and from that list the value of the number will be picked for that particular field if we are selected the data type as a auto number. So this is generated automatically by the system, and it will be always this. When you're selecting auto number, then that particular field value will be always in a readable mode. It will not be in a editable mode. Okay, that is about number and auto number. Then we have decimal. Decimal also, where is it also stores the decimal number. This is the decimal. Okay, and here also it always stores the decimal number, which will be used with the commas or decimal point as a decimal separator. Okay, then we have another called we have this boolean. Boolean always specifies to allow two values, that is yes or no. If that is the thing, we will go with the boolean. Okay, then we have date. That is another data type. Date is used to store date as a date picker. So when you go and see the start date and end date here, you can see here when you go to the make collections, and when you go and see here the date, when you click on here, this is the date picker as a calendar. because the behavior of the field, the data type which is being chosen as a date. Okay, so that is the purpose of date here. Okay, then we have another data type that is known as a pick list. Okay, pick list are nothing but the drop down values. It is so when you have some drop down values, it is already predefined. So those predefined values are stored under a feature called pick list in the success factor. Okay, so when you are creating a field and that field you want to map with a particular predefined value, so those predefined value has to be defined it in the pick list, and we need to map that pick list with that particular field, either it is a standard one or it is a custom one. Okay, so that is the purpose of pick list. Okay, so when you go here, you can see here there will be some standard drop down values which you can able to see head of the unit. Okay, here it is not mapped. You can see here for the previous batches we have created here, so you can see here we have created some pick list and we can see how it is been connected here. Okay, so that is the purpose of pick list here. Okay, then we have another use of trans table. I am only seeing the data type which is frequently used, which will help us to understand why it is used, and when in the future also when you need to use it, what are the data types which we need to pick up. Okay, so trans table, it is generally used to enter the localized string, generally used to enter the localized string for different locals. Okay, to summarize it in a more easy way, so now you can see the name of the business unit which we are specifying it in the English text. Same thing, if you want to translate it to the another language, we have this option which will be coming. Okay, why it is coming? Because when you go and see here for the business area name and the description where it is defined, so when you go here in the business area name and the description, the data type is taken as a trans table. That is the reason when you go here you have an option of giving the other translation also. Okay, that is the purpose of this one, trans table, which we were seeing here. Okay, that is the purpose of trans table. Then further, if you go ahead and see, we have the generic object. So generic object is nothing but the MDF object. Okay, I just want to also add, we started with this MDF object, right? That is the configure object definition. So MDF object is also known as GO, that is generic object. Okay, so when an object is being created, this the field value, so it will specify that if you want to call that particular MDF object or the generic object in that particular what you call field, then you select the data type as a generic object. So you go and see here, in this case this is a legal entity which we have created, a custom field. Okay, and we have selected that field as a generic object, so that is the reason those generic object values will be populating here. So when I go here, if I want to show here, if I scroll down, I think I have removed it, or I'm not sure about it. Okay, this we can, because this is something, this is the association which is getting populated, I think. But when you go and create it here, we have an option of going and creating the custom one. I will show you in the coming time how we can able to go and create it and there we need to go and select the generic object. So generic object is nothing but the MDF object. MDF object is what? This one, which you are going and seeing all the MDF objects. So when you are going and selecting any of the MDF objects, you will be finding a code here. This is the code, okay? And the MDF object is also known as a generic object. So when you want to map a generic object to a particular field, then in that case, you will select the data type as a generic object. This one, I will show you how it will work, okay? Then in that case, we will go and select a generic object, okay? Further, when you go and want to select an MDF object, what is the purpose of MDF object? So you are creating a field, but the value of that field you want to get it from the foundation. For example, for the generic, I am creating legal entity as a field name. So I want the value of that field should come from the legal entity. So I will select as a generic object. But if I want the value of the field should come from the foundation, then I will select the foundation object. So for foundation, where the value it is maintained in manage org job page structure, right? All the record values are maintained in manage org job page structure for foundation. For MDF or generic, where it is maintained? It is maintained in where it is maintained manage data, right? Manage data only it is maintained, right? For all the legal entities, business unit, right?
Yes.
So in that case, we will be going and selecting. You are creating a field, but you want the drop down values of that field should come from the generic object. Okay, it should come from that particular. You should take the values from the business unit, or you should take the values from the department. Then in that case, we need to understand what is this business unit department. This is nothing but the generic object, MDF object, right? So where is this MDF and generic object is defined? Actually, it is defined it in the configure object definition, correct?
Yes.
Correct. Similarly, when you are going and selecting foundation, where these values it is been defined, actually it is been the record is being created where in manage org job page structure, correct? But where it is defined it in XML, correct? So when you are selecting that object also, we need to define the code, okay? So when you go here into the details, you can see you have an option here to select the foundation object or the generic object. So when you are selecting a foundation object, system also want to know the code from where these values will be coming, okay? So if it is a foundation object, where is the foundation object defined? It is defined it in the XML, okay? So when you want to get a value of a location, so you should have a code of that location. Where the code will be coming? From the XML. Similarly, if you are selecting here as a MDF object, that is generic object. Now you are mapping the data type as a generic object, and you want to have the value of the generic object, then you also need to map the code valid value source from which source the value is coming, okay? Then in that case we need to specify the code here, okay? I will show you how we can able to go and create, okay? That is about the generic object and the foundation object which we were discussing in the data type, okay? Got it?
Yes. So there is no radio.
Any other questions? Then sorry,
There is no radio button. Data element. We usually have
radio button option is
okay.
radio button option is not there in the data type.
Okay.
Okay. And coming to that, we have attachment also. So if we want to have, if you're creating a field and the field should have an attachment option. Okay. So when you create a field and when you see it in the front end, the field should have an option where somebody can able to go and attach a document.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you can define that as the attachment for that particular. Okay. How that particular field will behave it. Okay. Okay. So
Yes.
this is about the data type which we were defining, and detail part we have already seen that in the data type, whatever the data type which we are selecting, we also need to select the particular source wherever it is required. Okay, that is also one thing. And another thing is the field is mandatory or not, the visibility of the field, okay, the length of the field, okay, all these things we need to define here. And also the label of the field also need to define, that is also one thing. Rule section we will come up when we will discuss about the business rule, what is the purpose of the rule. So this I am pausing for a while, but other than that, in the detail section, these are the important areas: length of the field, okay, and we are creating a custom field, so we need to specify the name and everything, okay, and the label of the field, okay, data type, okay, all these things is the important parameters which we need to look on when we are going and creating a field here. Okay, that is one thing. Sequence of the field, you can see here, you can see the arrow here. Okay, this arrow specifies the sequence of the field, how it will come in a sequence: external code, name, description, effective date. Same thing it will be showing here also, the sequence. Okay, if you want to have a different sequence of the field, that can be also done with the help of this arrows. Okay, got it?
Yes.
Okay, so when you go into any field also, if you want to modify in the label, the standard field, that is also possible. So if I'm going here and if I am going and modifying something here, uh, the standard one. So if I'm taking something, for example, business area underscore ID, I'm just adding something, okay, and I'm clicking on done here. And for the name also, let me go here, and for the name also, I can able to go business area name, and I can specify DAN, okay, and here it is not a required field, and if I am selecting this also as a required field and clicking on done, these two changes I am doing it, and I am clicking on save. Okay, let me go and delete this. Okay, and I'm just making the save here. So it is saved. So once it is saved, I will just refresh it. Now you can see the change in the label also has changed. Can you see here?
Yes.
Underscore ID, and here it was not mandatory, but now it is coming mandatory also.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is one thing. So whenever you are doing some trials, make sure to make the system back to normal. So what I have done, I have made some changes here. I will again go back to details, go to the label here, and here it was underscore, so I will just remove it. That is one thing. And second, in the name also I have kept the required as yes, I kept it no. Okay, label also I will remove it. And let me go and see if I can make this one as not visible. Okay, so I will save it. Okay, now again I will go and refresh it. Now you can see that is not visible. Can you see here? Business area name is not visible.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Now again, if I go back into the take action and where it is here. Okay. So here, when I go into the visibility and I will take as readable. Let me check if the system will allow us to for the readable or not. Okay. And then I will just refresh it. Okay. When I go to make correction, you can see it is readable mode. It is not editable. Got it? How we can able to work on each area, each um, attributes.
Yes.
Any questions here?
No. Still.
Okay. So again, I will go back into this. How it was there earlier, I will make it back to normal. I'm doing some trials. It is working successfully. I will go here. And further what I will do, I want to create some custom field. Let's go and create a custom field. So for business unit, right? So business unit, let's uh, business unit ID, area name, then head of the unit. So let's go and create something. I'm adding some custom field, that is business area type. Okay. So how I will go and create it? So let me go and create business area type. So make sure we should not have a gap here, business area type. So I'm creating a business area type. I can give as a 32 character, go to the details, and business area type which I am creating, that is something as an ID, but the label I need to define how it will look like. So business area type. Okay, go here, just copy this default value. Okay, and click on here. Okay, and then I will click on done, and visibility, let me check if it is editable. Yes, editable. Okay, and I can able to go and save it. Okay, now after saving it, I will just refresh it. Let me check. Business area type, it is showing here. Can you see here? Business area type.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, now this business area type, either you can give something as a manual value, that is also fine. But if your customer wants something also should have some automatic value. So uh, uh, let's take uh, some predefined values. So for getting some predefined value, I need to go into a place that is called as a picklist center. I will go and discuss it in more detail, but let me go and create some picklist value. So let me see if I would have created something in my earlier class. Business type. I have business area type. I have created something, it seems. So what was the business area type? Okay, these are something south, north, west. I have business area type which I created. So what I can do, I don't need to create anything. Already I have some predefined values. These are some predefined values. I need to do the mapping of this value. Okay, how I will do it, the mapping of this value? So I will go back here. I will go to the make correction. Okay, and I will go to the business area type, which you can see here. Go to the details, select the value that is pick list value. Okay, what is the value source? The code I need to copy. So I need to go here, just copy this code. Okay, and go to the object definition, paste this code here. Okay, so doing the mapping, and just now you can see it has been changed to pick list, and we have copied the code also, and we can save it. Okay, it is just a confirmation. Please go ahead. Okay, now we can able to go and refresh it. Okay, now I will go to the make correction. Let me check if I have some drop down values. Business area type, you can see the drop down values will be coming. Is it clear?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, this is something how we are creating a custom field and how we are adding a predefined value with the help of a pick list. Okay, so again I will go back here and go to the make corrections, scroll down, and let me delete it. Okay, now I will try to create another custom field and take another data type. Let me take, so I'm taking something uh, here as a, let me take as a division. I'm taking something as a division. Okay, let me take as a division area. I'm taking, and I'm taking here also as a 32 character. And this division area, I need to have the value which should come from, I need to have a value which should come from the generic object. So let me take the generic object here. Okay, so when I'm taking the generic object, I should again have a value for that valid value source, the code I should have. From where I will get the code, where division is a what? Division is also an MDF object, right? So MDF object is also define it in where configure object definition, correct? So I can search division here to get my code here, correct? So when I go and select, you can see the code is there. Okay. Naming convention is important because the characters, caps and everything, these are case sensitive. Okay. I will copy this. I will go here and I will paste it here. Okay. So finally, I'm creating a custom field that is division area, but I want that it should take the generic object, and for that generic object, which object code I need to take for the division. When I will take it for the division, what will happen? Whatever is the division in the managed data, whatever the values which we have, whatever records which we have created, that values will start populating. Okay. So when I click on done here and when I click on save, okay, so I have done something where I missed something. I created the division, but I have not updated the label. Okay, that only it is saying that it is violating. Okay, so go here and again go and save it. Area violate. Oh, sorry, division area it is there, no? Division area. Just a minute. Division area. Okay. Meaning the name must begins with a letter. Begins with a letter. Or may contain alphanumeric character underscore. Okay. I don't know why it is taking, but let me. I just given the space. No? I should not give the space. While discussing, I missed that point. Okay. These are something case sensitives. Okay. I changed it. Now again refreshing it. Now again you can see division area. Okay. A new custom field. When I go into that field, the values are coming from where? From the division. Okay. So when I duplicate this screen, if I want to go, sorry, I just refreshed this. If I want to go and see the field here, suppose if I'm selecting something as this one, okay, division area. So from where this field is coming. So if I will go here, you can see the field is coming from here. 3200 shared service. The same thing, 3200 shared service. You can see here you have an option here, view division. You can see this is coming from here. Okay. So how we have mapped it with the help of that particular code which we have. For that we have taken the code as a this code we have taken and the data type which we have selected as generic object. Okay. Okay. So here we have selected the data type as generic object. Any questions here?
No, it's clear.
Is it clear how we can create and work on various custom fields under the MDF object?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Same thing. I have taken an example for a custom MDF object and added some pick list values. Similarly, I also done for the generic object. You can try also for the foundation object. So foundation object, suppose if I am taking the foundation object, here also we need to take the code. Okay. So for how I will go and take the code, suppose if I am taking something as a location area. Okay. Let me go and take. I'm not giving any space and 32 character. And here I am taking the name label as location area. Okay. So now for I need to have the value from the foundation object. For that I need to get the code. From where I will get the code? Location is define it in where? It is in the data model, right? Correct. So in which data model it is defined? It is defined it in the corporate data model, right? So when I will open the XML, let me open the XML and I will share it to you. You can see. Okay. So now in the XML, because this topic which we have already covered earlier, so I will go to the location. Where is location? Now this is the location, right? So code is nothing but the ID, right? Label, it is a location, but here you can see the ID. Okay. So I will copy this because this will be the code for me. And again, I will go back into my system. And here is my system visible.
Yes.
And I will paste it here. Okay. Okay, the code, because for the code only I went into the XML. I will go there and I will click on done and I will click on save. Okay. So once it is being done, then I will go and refresh it once. Okay. Now you can see location area, and location area you can see here all the locations will be coming here. Where it is defined, manage object pay structure. Correct? Okay. So this is another scenario where I am trying to create a custom field, and that custom field I want that field should behave as a foundation object, because I want the values of the foundation object should be populating in that field. So that is the reason I have taken the data type as foundation object. Okay. And when I'm taking as a foundation object, I should have a valid value source that I need to take it, the code I need to paste it here for the field, for the mapping. Okay. And after that I will save it. The same thing will be reflecting in the manage data when I go into the business unit and I see the field will be showing and the field will be having the value of the foundation object. Okay. Is it clear? This is
Yes.
another way of exploring any of the custom field with the help of the data types. Okay. So I just created it and I'm just deleting it so that I want to make it back to normal. So here we comes to an end of the one part of the MDF, that is we have discussed the above part all the code effective dating, as well as we have also discussed about the fields also. That is, this is the standard one which we have discussed, the length maximum up to 255 we can able to go and take, and various type of data types. And in the details we have all the field properties or the attributes which we say, where we can able to play with it. Most importantly, the length, the uh, required mandatory or not mandatory, and also the visibility of the field, okay, the label of the field. All these things we can able to control from this section. Okay, so this is all about the today's session which we have discussed.